Hi everybody and welcome to this Academy tutorial video here on the BK Golf Clash YouTube channel. Part of a series, link is in the description down below and on the channel homepage as well, of short tutorials to help you improve your gameplay. Whether you're playing tour play or tournaments, we have stuff to help you regardless of your skill level, so do check them out. Before we get started, I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit thumbs up on this video. It only takes a split second, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. It is totally free to do so. Now, today's video, it's going to be a top 10 video. And the title of this video, we're going to put a little graphic up here. It's all about mistakes. We all make them. I've made my fair share of them, quite a few of which have been on stream in front of a decent sized audience, and we're going to have a laugh about them. But I have compiled here a list of the most frequent mistakes. Now, I get a lot of comments on the videos here, whether it's whole guide videos, tournaments, etc. People saying that the shot didn't work out quite as it did for me. And it's very difficult to advise without seeing replays exactly where people have gone wrong. But I have a pretty good idea from watching a lot of content, playing a lot of gameplay as well, and working with shot creation for a long while of where these mistakes usually occur. So I've got here a list of the most frequent 10 mistakes that are made. And this is with a view to following shots. So whether you're following a text guide, whether you are following a video guide here on my channel or indeed anyone else's, or indeed you're just following somebody's replay that you've seen on a Facebook group such as our own BK Golf Clash Facebook group. Check it out while we're talking about Facebook groups, and also in your clan chats as well. You may try and replicate a shot, it may not go according to plan. So here come the most frequently made mistakes when you are following along with somebody's shot in the game of Golf Clash. Let's get started. We're going to start with one of the most common errors, and that is an error with pull angle. The wind arrow that you can see on the screen, if the shot calls for a straight pull, doesn't mention any 1159 or 1201, you want that wind arrow when you're adjusting your rings to be as vertical as possible. Some people like to look at the shadow underneath. Some people just like to look at the arrow itself. So make sure that that is where you need it to be. Obviously it will flicker, but the other part of this error, even if you've got the pull angle of the wind arrow correct, is actually pulling your rings in a straight vertical line. I'm going to show you a deliberate mistake video here. I'm taking my shot. I know the rings I'm going to pull, but when I come to adjust my rings, not only do I have an unintentional 1159 on the wind arrow, you can see it leaning to the left. Look at when I adjust my rings. Instead of pulling straight down in a vertical line from top to bottom, I actually pull the rings quite a few degrees to the left. So 2 points to watch out for there. The pull angle of not just the wind arrow, but also when you are adjusting your shot. Now I'm going to talk about unwanted overpower here. I'm going to put a little video on. Sometimes when people are playing with a lot of curl, they can drag the ball too far down to the side. It does add unwanted overpower. So make sure the person whose structure you're following, are they using the point where the circle drops as overpower or not? You can see just there I had 2 rings of overpower on, really without moving the ball that much. So make sure you're using the same method as the person you're trying to follow. Same can apply with shots without curl. If the base of that ball is touching the bottom teeth of the adjustment ring, you are adding some inadvertent overpower. Only a couple of clicks, but it could make the difference in your shot being successful or not. The flip side of that, of course, you can also inadvertently underpower your shot as well. So do watch out for those details. Following on from the last point, it's also easy to put unintentional curl on your shots, particularly if you're playing par 3s. And a lot of people don't realise this. I've done a tutorial on it in the past, but make sure the ball is perfectly centred in the adjustment ring. Unlike the picture that you see here, this one is showing some unintentional curl to the left. Again, it's only 2 or 3 clicks, but it can be enough to cause your shot to miss. So just before you actually finish taking your shot and hit perfect, just take a moment or two to look at the adjustment ring, make sure that ball is absolutely in the centre or where indeed you need it to be. Now we're going to talk about club distances. If you are following a guide from myself or anyone else, let's say I'm setting up here with the extra mile level 8 at the top of plus 10 yards. If you have the extra mile 9, you will need to set up at the top of plus 9. And likewise with extra mile 6 or 7, because your club distance is different, you'd be setting up at the top of plus 12. So make sure you factor that in. If it's not mentioned, do double check yourself. Find some great statistics on the clubs. There are plenty of charts available that give you the club distance, and maybe work out, especially if you're using a different type of club, not just a club level, but if you're using APOC rather than extra mile, factor in your club distance as well. Following on from the last point, the same has to be said for ring references as well. Taking distance totally out of the equation, if you are using a driver with 60% accuracy and I'm using a driver with 80% accuracy, if we set up with the red ring touching the rough, it will be a different position because the ring sizes are a different size depending on your club accuracy. So once again, go and check those club charts. Very easy mistake to make, especially if you're using the apocalypse, because there are small differences between 4, then 5 and 6, and then when you get to level 7, level 8, as your accuracy increases, your ring sizes get smaller, so your ring references will be different as well, so make sure you check those out. Now we're going to talk about wind angles. This is more of a detail, and you may not be using this in your game just yet, but if you want to continue to improve and drop more shots, you will need to take note of wind angles. You're likely to see pictures like this in actual text guides, so make sure you're looking at them if you've got those resources there. Find the reference points. So look, there's a very good useful reference there with the pink kind of heather bush there on the red arrow. Then you've got the blue one to the right of the tree. So make some mental reference points there, and if you're using video content only, you may not have the luxury of these pictures. So try and have a look at what wind angle is in the video, and then when you're playing your shot, if you're practicing a couple of times, even better. If you see a difference in the wind angle, then you might need to build in a little tweak to compensate, whether that's on a par 3 with a couple of clicks of curl or a slightly different spin, or on a send it shot in tailwind. If you're having more tailwind angle than the reference video, then make sure you're going to compensate on that as well, because there will be, and always will be, a variance in wind angle in tournament play. Now we're going to talk about different wind resistance balls, and it's important if you're following a guide or a video guide that you're trying to keep to the same wind values as the shot creator, because you may have really different results, particularly on send it shots. For example, if I'm using a berserker here in expert, I'm going to have the wind between 9.2 and 11.9, I think somewhere around there. If you haven't got any berserkers, you may need to use a snow globe, but you're going to have wind potentially 12, 13, maybe even 14 miles per hour. It will have an impact on your shot, so make sure you compensate if you don't have quite the exact same stats available in your ball bag. Same goes for par 3s as well. If a certain shot has been dropping with wind, for example, below 8 miles an hour, and you've run out of Kingslayers in expert, then make sure you make the necessary tweaks or adapt the setup slightly if you are using balls with less wind resistance, as you will have a higher wind value and it will affect the outcome of your shot. Now, we've all done it, we've all made an error with the wind app. You can put in the wrong wind value for a start, but then going down to the finer details, it's very, very easy to have the wrong power selected. So you can see there, power 3 ball. Make sure you are using the correct settings. Double check it if you have time. Other mistakes you can make here, you can have the wrong elevation in, you can have the wrong slider value in as well. There's so much that can go wrong just from punching a couple of numbers into the app. And the other classic mistake is make sure you adjust the right values. If it calls for min, adjust min, don't adjust mid or max. And even worse than that, and again, I'm laughing here inwardly because I've done it as well, is make sure that you are adjusting for the right club. I've been there in the past. We want to adjust for quarterback numbers, and I've looked at the wrong column and I've only gone with the Thor's hammer instead. So make sure when you are using your wind apps, due diligence is needed. Get all the steps correct. take your time and get your app set up as best you can before the shot so you can minimize on those silly mistakes. Now I'm going to call this little segment attention to detail because it's going to cover quite a lot, but there's a lot of details that you can miss or just not replicate as well as you need to. And we're not just talking about your ring placement if you're using different clubs. We're talking about clicks of spin, making sure the spin matches. If somebody is saying it's 3.2 backspin, make sure your idea of 3.2 is the same as theirs. Same thing goes to plus yardage. Is it from the top of a certain yardage or just into a certain plus yardage? And also ball guide references as well. Make sure you have the ball guide stats to hand. If somebody you are following has a fully developed ball guide on the Thorn and you haven't, make sure you compensate as well. So tailor all of the content, whether it's from me or anybody else, with all those details in mind to make sure that you are as successful as possible. Finally, we're going to talk about pulling rings and using the same method. And it doesn't matter which method the shot creator is using, you will need to use the same one as them to help get the same results. For example, here, we're going to talk about pulling over the bullseye. Again, there is a separate tutorial on this if you've not seen it already. Let's say we're using the Grizzly and I'm needing to pull 10 rings. If I'm using the top picture, I could do 2 pulls to the bullseye from the white, outside the white ring, to the center. That will give me 10. I could go from where it is there, the outside of the white ring, all the way across the bullseye to the opposite edge of the white ring. That will give me a little over 10 because that yellow ring is slightly bigger, as we found out prior to that. But if the guide maker or the shot you're following, if they're saying 2 pulls over the bullseye, then you'd want to be using the bottom picture. Start from the outside of the red ring. Then you would pull all the way across the red, both parts of the yellow, the red again, and the blue. That will give me 5 rings over the bullseye, and then another 5 over the bullseye as well. So it doesn't matter which method it is, doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not, you need to do the same one as the shot creator. So do observe for these little details because they do make a difference. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the content as always, and I hope you found it useful as well. Now let's be honest, how many of these mistakes have you made? Leave me a comment. Let me know if there are some classic ones that you've done several times, and if there's any others that you think I may have missed out from the top 10 that you think will be worthy of adding, maybe in another video. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below. In the meantime, I wish you all good luck in your gameplay and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.